Well, here we are again for the fourth session of the Active Reciprocal Reading program, the coaching program that we've been doing with our colleagues in Morogoro. Habari, Umjambo, hope you're all well. Let's see if we can set this into the context of where we are. If you remember from previous sessions, this ARR program is very much within the Pixel approach to school improvement, and we have diagnosed in conjunction with yourselves that reading English text can be a real barrier to student progress. And so we've put this program together in the hope that you can use these techniques with your students, help them practice ARR when they're working with you in the classroom, so that when they get to an exam classroom or an exam situation, they are able to use these techniques internally in their heads to access the text and to make sense of the questions and to answer in detail. So today we will have a quick reflect on sessions 1, 2, and 3 and the aims of the program. And we'll look again at the 5 steps just to remind ourselves. We'll also, I'll be discussing with you where I hope you're up to, and maybe predicting a little bit to next year, because we may have, fingers crossed, we may have some contact with you next year, if possible. And then towards the end of today's session, we're going to talk about session 5, which will be the session that finishes the program. And then hopefully we'll get some feedback from you. I have had 1 or 2 texts, so that's great. And we're looking forward to feedback from you, from the groups who were chosen, and also for people in Morogoro and elsewhere in Tanzania who have indicated that they would like to join in. You're all very welcome. And once this program is fully uploaded onto the Pixel app and YouTube, we expect to hear a lot more from you. So, what is the program? Well, as I said earlier, we're looking to improve students' reading of English in schools in Tanzania, and we know why that's crucially important. We're in partnership, we're working together to trial active reciprocal reading in your schools, and what you tell us from this point onwards is very important, because we want to learn from your good practice in schools. There are 5 sessions. This is session before. I will be completing the recording of these by next week, so we will definitely meet that deadline. I'm very pleased that people seem to be participating, and we would hope that you could participate on an even wider basis, because the more teachers that you explain and show this approach to, the greater chance of success we have. Because it's based on talk, oracy, as we call it, and your large class sizes, we do need to have some control techniques, and I'll say a little bit more about those. And what we've found through using ARR in English schools is that little and often works well. So if you could begin it in your schools and encourage others to use it, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week for 10, 15 minutes, that really builds up students' abilities with reading English across the curriculum. Now, as I've mentioned already, the Pixel app is there, it's up and running, and all of these PowerPoint slides will be posted there by the end of next week, and you'll have the links to the YouTube video as well, which you will have if you're watching this. So, just to recap then on our role and your role as we in the Action Research Group that we began in Morogoro this year. Our role has been to prepare, plan, and explain the program to you. And all of this is based on current best practice in the UK. But crucially, we want to listen to your feedback, because You are the experts in Tanzanian schools. You can take these principles and adapt them for your students and then give us the feedback so we know what works in your schools. So we are offering advice and guidance, but we want to learn from you. Your role as part of the partnership is to hopefully continue the work with your students on ARR. Once you've finished these early programs, maybe try using ARR with a wider range of text, varying the texts. And to do this, you'll have to adapt and improve ARR for your students by taking feedback from them, by listening to what they say about it. Do they find the steps easy? Have they understood the steps? Can they start to do it in the class themselves? Are they able to do it when they're reading at home, privately, independently? Now, we would love to hear some feedback from you on all of these topics. So in a sense, this is action research. This is what action research in education is essentially. We have a program. We have evidence in the UK and internationally that this works very well. We don't have enough evidence yet of it working in Tanzania, and we would love to hear that evidence. So you're the professionals as you implement ARR, and you are reflective practitioners, because you will be reflecting on what your students are saying to you about the program. If possible, and we'd very much like you to do this, can you collect evidence that this is working in your classrooms? Perhaps some brief notes, perhaps observing students in their reading behaviour, maybe even videoing some clips so that we can add it to the website. Sorry, to the app. So by sharing your professional learning and your insights with us and with others, you become the experts and we become the experts, and the program grows and students gain the benefit of that. So here we are. Here is the cycle of active reciprocal reading. Activating prior knowledge and predicting. You remember that we start by talking to students about what they already know about a topic, and then ask them to make a prediction, or you demonstrate how to make a prediction. But a prediction helps engage everyone, helps focus everyone on the text and what is likely to be in the next section. The reading part of the cycle could be you reading because you're the best reader in the class. It could be echo reading, where you read and pupils respond. It could be students reading in pairs to each other. It could be performance reading. So lots of different ways in which you can read the text with a large group to really engage them. And then as part of the reading step, we go on to clarify, where in a short piece of text, you decide initially which are the really tricky words, which are the hard words, just to explain what they are. Maybe 3 or 4 in each small section. This word means this word means this, so that they can go on to comfortably the next step, which is the focus of today, and that's question. So we've got them orientated, we've read it in a number of ways, we've clarified, we've got rid of those difficult words. Questioning is the essence of ARR, because we've prepared the ground for the students to be asked questions which will force them to go back to the text and reread and talk and come up with answers. And that process is called making meaning, making sense through talk of the text. Now, the final session will be on summarize, that's session 5, and then we'll talk about how to review and reflect with students as well. So we hope that you will be continuing this in your schools, that you'll be taking feedback from your students, that you'll be implementing the cycle, the ARR cycle, that you will be focusing on ways to implement oracy, talk, how to inject talk into classrooms, because talk is constructive. It helps students make sense of the learning. And if this is working for you, we hope you'll invite other colleagues to maybe come into your class and observe a short ARR session, or possibly show them some of the video clips and the YouTube clips that we've got on the app, so they can see this in action and trial it for themselves. Now, suggestions for extending ARR. I've mentioned this already, but I think it's crucial. We should be getting to the stage soon where you feel confident about spreading the word about how effective this can be. So you could demonstrate paired talk to other staff members. You can bring them in and show them the power of this. You can encourage more students to participate in ARR by doing it with a different group or a number of different classes. You can tell other staff about it. If you're brave enough, you could demonstrate it to other staff. And particularly how to use the control techniques. And by that, I mean, when we ask students to talk, perhaps clapping when you want their attention, or having a signal when you want them to stop talking. If you can't get them talking, perhaps get some confident students to demonstrate it for them. I'm sure they'll take to it very quickly. So just having some control techniques to enable you to use these techniques with larger classrooms. And then finally, before we get into questioning in detail today, little and often, we'd like you to use ARR for short, snappy, 10-minute, 15-minute sessions regularly, and encourage other staff to do it, because this helps students become familiar with it, and they can then become independent because they learn to do it for themselves. So regular practice of ARR gives students confidence, perhaps 15 minutes twice a week. Use the terms predict, read, clarify, question, summarize all the time, so that students begin to understand it at a deeper level, and then praise them when they use these terms. Now, I did a template for you just after session 1. I'd be very interested to see if anyone has taken this up and used it themselves. So let's look at today's focus, colleagues. We're going to look in depth at questioning, the question session. And crucially, we're using talk or oracy as part of that question process. So we've done predict, we've done read, we've done clarify. This is the essence of ARR, preparing students to answer a question by using the information in the text. Now, the questions that you pose for them should encourage them to go back and look again at the text for the answers that are there. So step 4 for ARR is question. Why do we question pupils at this point? Well, as I explained earlier, steps 1 through to 3 prepare the students. Done prediction, that engages them. We've done different ways of reading, that helps them understand. We've done clarify, remove the difficult words. Questioning is the key priority because it challenges students to think and to talk. There's real challenge there at this point. It encourages students to go back to the text and reread, because that in-depth, detailed, analytical reading is what will generate their answers. They will gradually learn to understand through the talk and the question. We call this the search for meaning. They're attempting to make meaning from the text, literally construct their own understanding. And that leads to comprehension. Now, your role in the questioning section is to prepare in advance 2 or 3 questions, no more than that. If possible, make them open questions rather than closed questions. So, for instance, an open question would be, explain how. Explain how the engine works. Explain how the weather cycle operates. Explain how the crops emerge in this industry, in this farming industry. That's a good technique because it's open-ended and it forces pupils to respond for themselves. They have to read the text again. They have to find the process of growing potatoes, and they have to respond with their own words. So an open question offers more challenge. It doesn't mean you can't ask a closed question, and sometimes a closed question is a good way to start. Who is the main character in this novel? There is only one correct answer, so it's a closed question. But it asks students to think and remember where they've come from. Perhaps they've forgotten the main character, so they have to go back to the text to see what the name of that character is. So there is some skimming and scanning and reading involved in that. So closed questions are okay, but try and have at least 2 open questions for each session. Also, encourage the students to talk in pairs before they answer the question to you and to the whole class. That rehearsal, that oral rehearsal, helps them dig deeper, enables them to talk to each other in private so they can experiment with their answers, and they therefore return to the text and they can gather more evidence so their answers are fuller, more detailed. And then if you can, I know this is difficult with large cohorts, large class sizes, but try and include all students. Perhaps over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, everybody has a go. And then as students become more confident at answering the questions, perhaps you could ask them in their pairs to ask their own questions. Have you got any questions you want to ask me about the text? And that puts a different challenge on the students. They've got to talk, they've got to think, they've got to go back to the text, and they've got to have the confidence to ask you. So lots of challenges in that technique as well. So what is the student's role? Well, the student's role in the question step is to listen carefully, or perhaps read the question. They need to pick out the key words to make sure they understand what they have to do. And if it's a written question in an exam, perhaps they could underline the key words to help them focus. They could talk to their partner about the question. Not in an exam, obviously, but in your classroom. And they can, what you should encourage them to do, is to reread that section of the text with their partner to find where the answers can be found. This is the textual evidence that will support their answer. And then, of course, as they get more confident, we want to encourage you to ask students to ask their own questions. Finding their own voice through questioning is a real adult skill. So, just to round this off, some thoughts about questioning. Good readers question text, even if they do it subconsciously. So what we're trying to do is set up a dialogue in the student's brain that discusses text as they're reading, that starts to get thinking as they're reading. Questioning the text in this stage promotes active active engagement with it. And it helps children because it encourages them to explore meaning in the text. Questions are usually based on what has been read so far. So the reader uses this information to ask appropriate or interesting questions themselves. So we're trying to set up a dialogue, a discussion, a short discussion about the text, using the evidence, asking the question, getting them talking. It's all about talk, text, and response. So there we are. That's questioning step 4. So what have we done so far? With Mr. Fundy's support, we've run the workshops in schools in Morogoro. We've recruited yourselves and others to the ARR coaching program. We've now completed sessions 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the program. So next we're going to look at session 5. I haven't updated the text there. And we're going to be looking at summarizing. And then all of this will be uploaded to the Pixel app by the end of next week in August. And the YouTube sessions will be there available for you to link into. So reminders, the Pixel app, we still would like your feedback. The YouTube links are there. And if you're watching this, you already know that. And then session 5 is coming up very shortly. So we will be finished by the end of August.